The path of an artist is full of challenges, which has pushed me to reach out to other professionals about their experiences. Join us as we explore the journeys of fine artists who have turned their passion of creating art into a profession. From their highs to their hurdles, these are real insights, breakthroughs, and triumphs to inspire other creators to reach higher. Welcome to the Business of Art podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the Business of Art podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be trying something a little bit new and different. I'm going to be talking about galleries. As a fine artist, it's one of the big aspects of being a professional and learning how to work with them, how to find them, and really build a relationship with them that's going to be mutually beneficial. In the end, the whole goal with working with galleries is that it's a win-win for everybody. You as the artist and the gallery also is better off because of the relationship. I think a lot of times, we as artists have a little bit of the wrong mindset, is that we're kind of looking at how can we get the most out of this without really taking into account the needs of the gallery. And sometimes I think it's the other way around too, where the gallery is looking at all of their benefits without really taking into account our needs as artists. And so the whole goal is to find a situation where you can have a working professional relationship with the gallery where you and they are ending up on top. The first thing that I would also want to consider is whether you feel like a gallery is right for you. So before you even start looking for a gallery, you might consider some of the pros and the cons. But let me not get too far ahead of myself here. In this video, I'm going to be covering several different things. So one, is gallery representation right for you? The second one is finding the right gallery. Third, researching galleries effectively. Fourth, the application and vetting process. And then fifth, maintaining a strong relationship once you have representation. So first off, I also want to let you guys know that this is going to be kind of a quick run through without a lot of detail. And so I actually have a lot more information that's available in our courses. And so if you click on the link below, you can get more information about the courses we offer and a lot of the resources. But there's some really great PDFs and downloadable things to help you through the gallery process, if that's what you choose to consider and to pursue. Anyway, so if you're interested, check that out for sure. So first, is gallery representation right for you? So there's a lot of pros and cons. I've personally had a lot of experiences with galleries. I've had some not so great experiences, and I've had some really great experiences. And so, and ultimately, to me, it comes down to having a good working relationship where both parties are benefiting. And so there's a lot that goes into that. But to walk you through some of the pros and cons of galleries that you should just be aware of, some of the pros. So you get increased exposure when you're working with a gallery. They have an established network and client base typically that you don't have access to. They have clients that they've been working on and creating those relationships for years and years. And a lot of art collectors will only work with galleries. And so they don't go find people on social media. They don't go to art shows or other avenues that you might consider. And so you're going to have access to people that you wouldn't otherwise have access to if you're represented by a gallery. Next, validation and credibility. Being represented by a gallery can, I shouldn't say always, but can boost your professional status as an artist, and it can add prestige and even kind of a value factor to increasing the value of your work. Depending on the gallery, I think there's some galleries that if you're represented by them, that's a pretty big deal. And that alone will up your reputation and your professional status. Also, galleries also increase marketing and promotion of your work. That kind of goes along with the increased exposure, but they a lot of times are involved in exhibitions, and they have different advertising procedures and plans that they go through, and also their outreach to different collectors. So another one is managing sales. A lot of artists don't love to handle their own sales. They don't like dealing with that. They would just rather paint and create and let somebody else do that. And so that's one other really great reason to get a gallery, is that they handle dealing with the customer, handling any customer service related issues, along with shipping and all that kind of stuff. And you just get a check, which is really nice. Another thing that galleries do is they typically have access to curators and other artists in the art world. It's just another way of networking. It's an avenue of networking on a more professional level. So some galleries are involved heavily with specific shows or venues and things like that they would then give you access to, expanding your client base and your potential market. And then also, I would say another pro is consistent sales channels. A good gallery can consistently give you income. Let's say like you have specific seasonal or different times of the year when your work sells, depending on what you're producing. And so a gallery can then potentially sell in those off seasons or the other seasons when you're not typically selling. So you can get more consistent income if you're working with galleries or multiple galleries, along with other things that you might be pursuing. So those are some of the pros. For the last 12 years, I have been a professional oil painter, and it has been an incredible journey with some really big challenges and a lot of successes. I've been included in some of Western Art's biggest museum shows. I've been featured in some of the top Western Art magazines. I've sold hundreds of paintings, and I've made a really great living. But there's definitely been a massive learning curve to get my art to where it is today. So I've set out to help shrink that learning curve for other artists who are on the same path that I was. I'm really excited to announce the early bird launch of my online course, The Business of Art. In The Business of Art, I'll be guiding you step by step through my painting process, going through everything from what materials I use, how I prep my panels, all the way to varnishing and framing my art. And I'll be going over the techniques that have helped me to transform my work into what it is now. I'm also pulling back the curtain on how I utilize Photoshop to efficiently get my reference images solid and ready to paint from. But that's not all. Understanding the value of your work and how to price it is crucial, which is why I'm also including my painting price calculator. I've personally developed this calculator over the last several years, and it has made pricing my work extremely simple and has saved me a ton of time. Guys, I truly believe that this course is worth the investment and will be a great resource for you on your art journey. But if you don't find the value that you're looking for, we have a full 30-day money-back guarantee. Click the link below, and I look forward to seeing you in the course. Some of the cons to consider is, I think, first and foremost, commission fees. I would say it's very, very typical for a gallery to charge a 40 to 50% commission. And I think, honestly, 50% is probably more of the norm, at least what I've run into. And so whenever I tell people that and new artists that are coming into the art world, it's mind blowing. Like, what? They want to take half. And that's absolutely true. And so if you think about those pros, you're getting access to different collectors, different clients. You're opening up your market. You're not having to handle the sales, shipping. You're saving a lot of time if a gallery is working for you. and they're selling for you. And so it just depends if you feel like that 50% is worth it. So another con. Another aspect is some kind of, when you're working with a gallery, you do lose some control. So they are going to try to work with you on pricing your work, on marketing and how it's presented. And so, maybe you've chosen a certain type of frame that you like, but the gallery's like, I can't sell out of these frames. My clients really like this. And so you're going to have to work and kind of, collaborate with them to make sure that your work is presented well and is sellable. And so you do lose some control as you have to collaborate more with them on creating that mutually beneficial relationship. Another thing is some galleries have exclusive contractual agreements, which means sometimes, like if you are represented by them, they don't want you to go to a gallery within a certain geographical area and be represented by them either, because their clients might overlap. And so you're going to want to make sure that when you're looking at a gallery, especially if it's getting close to that, you're deciding on whether or not that's going to work, that's one of the factors you need to look into, is what their exclusivity agreements are and what they kind of expect as far as that goes. I've heard some interesting experiences from other artists where the galleries wanted to be the only place where an artist sold their work. And so that would be definitely something. It would have to be an incredible gallery. I don't even think I would consider something like that personally. I love to sell my work. I like to have the freedom to create my own clients. Anyway, so that's something to consider. Look through those contracts very carefully. And if you need help analyzing it, you can find a lawyer. Anyway, I don't want to, we can go really far into this, but anyway, there's a lot to cover. Another con is that, if you're only working with a gallery or two, then your sales are completely dependent on their success. And so that's something to consider. Also, as you are collaborating with this gallery, you might have a misalignment in your vision or your goals. And maybe they're looking to do a certain thing with your work, or they have a vision for your work that doesn't really align with what you were thinking. So another con you might consider. One other issue that can come up is issues with communication. Having a working relationship is hard, and there's a lot of room for miscommunication. And so it just takes two professional entities, you and the gallery, and those who are working at the gallery, to be able to collaborate and communicate very professionally, and to be able to have those hard conversations that sometimes come up and arise when it comes to your work. And then another thing is unclear terms. It's just expectations. Sometimes a gallery is going to have really high expectations, and you have high expectations, and it's easy to have issues when it feels like your expectations aren't being met, or when theirs aren't being met on your part. So anyway, those are a lot of the pros and cons to consider. If you're thinking about a gallery, if you think galleries are something that you really want to get involved in, think about those things. And, there's definitely a lot to consider, and it's not always the right thing for everybody. I know a lot of artists that don't deal with galleries at all. They sell their own work via social media or art shows, or definitely both. Anyway, so let's jump in to, let's say you decide that you really want to pursue a gallery. You think that it's worth your time and it's aligned with your goals as an artist. The first thing I think you should consider is what gallery is right for you. So in most big cities, you're going to find galleries. And depending on the city, typically I would say cities have their own different niches and genres of art and styles. I think, so depending on the type of work you're creating, you're going to want to look for a gallery that is a good fit for your work. You're going to want to find similar work to yours, not that it has to be exactly like your style, but that the subject matter and the general style, like realism versus abstract. You're going to want to find a gallery. If you have representational work, you want to find a representational gallery, or that at least represents several representational artists. If you have more abstract work, you're going to want to look for a gallery that represents abstract. And I think sometimes artists are like, well, they don't have an abstract artist yet, so maybe they should represent that. But galleries are going to sell work that they resonate with. And so if you don't see your type of work represented at a gallery, you're going to need to look somewhere else. At least that's my recommendation. I wouldn't waste your time. Find a place that's already selling work that's similar to yours. Okay. So you need to look for galleries. And if you can find a gallery that's close to you, I think that's ideal. But it just depends on what you're actually painting and what you're creating. Your work, I know a lot of artists that are represented in the West, like me. My work goes very well with Western art galleries and that kind of genre. And so I've been only represented by galleries in the Western United States. And there's a lot of artists that I know that don't live in the West, but because of their subject matter, they're only represented by Western galleries because that's where that work sells. And so, by all means, try to find something close to you if you can. But if you can't find a gallery that represents the kind of work that you create, then you need to go elsewhere and you need to expand. And some of the issues you might run into and things to consider is shipping your work. Shipping is getting more and more expensive all the time. And so, getting your work, delivering your work, I love the idea of being able to take my work physically to take it myself. But I also want to have the option to ship it if it's not feasible to actually drive it myself and deliver it. So geographical location is something to consider for sure. You also want to make sure that you find a gallery that has a similar vision and market focus that you have with your work. I definitely encourage that if you can, to physically go and visit the gallery in person. If they have a virtual tour or something like that you can do online, that's great. But ideally, if you can go in person, that's I think the best way to get a really good feel for a gallery. So finding the right gallery is really important. Find a place that sells work similar to yours. Okay. And if it's not close to you, then find wherever that is. And for some of you, that might be overseas. And then that's a whole nother level of potential issues that you can run into with shipping and all kinds of stuff. But I know a lot of Canadian artists that sell their work in the States because that's really that's like the best place for them to sell it. And they just have to deal with those international customs and things like that. Anyway, so how to find the right gallery. Okay. Do your research, take the time, go through that effort. Okay. Let me give you some tips. The third section on this is researching galleries effectively. So, find their websites. You usually can find galleries on social media. You're going to want to, you can see kind of what their marketing efforts are like. If you can find them on social media, you can see what kind of things that they do to promote artists, artists' work. Because ultimately, you want a gallery that's going to represent you well and that's going to work for you. And so finding the channels that they actually use for their marketing is a great way to see what they do. So social media is huge. Look at their website. Look at if they, have a newsletter sign up. A lot of galleries will have an email list. If you don't see something like that on their website, that might be a red flag, because they should be consistently trying to amass a collector base as well, right? So another thing that I think is one of the most effective ways to research a gallery is, let's say you find one that represents work similar to yours, where you feel like you'd be a good fit. You can actually contact artists that are represented by those galleries. So, their artists will be listed. And if you know one of those artists, by all means, that's somebody you could reach out to. If you already have a relationship there, you can reach out to them and say, hey, I would love to know what your experience has been working with this gallery. If you don't know any of those artists and you're really new to the scene, there are ways to contact those artists. A lot of times those artists will have their own websites and contact information where you can either email them or potentially call them. I personally would start with email, or if you can find them on social media, messaging them on social media. It's a less obtrusive way of reaching out. Cold calling an artist may not be the best approach because they're busy. And email is nice because they can respond at their own pace. And you just don't want to be pushy. You're looking for information that's going to help you, and they're ultimately providing a very kind service and taking time to give you information that's been hard earned. Getting into a gallery is not a simple thing. It's something that these artists have worked hard for, and they may not want to share with you their different aspects, or they might see you as competition. It depends on the artist, and so be very respectful of them, and just be careful how you approach it. But what I have found is that when I was looking into galleries, I found artists and I was able to find their websites and their contact information. And what I would do is I would write just a very kind email, kind of along the lines of, hey, my name is this. This is me. Here's my social media. I'm really new to this, and I'm just trying to get my feet wet, looking into gallery representation. I would love if you would take just a minute of your time and just let me know what your experience has been with this gallery. If you're not okay with that, I'm totally cool. I really appreciate your time. Any help would be greatly appreciated. But if not, no worries. Just be really polite, ultimately. I think that's one of the best ways is, and if an artist refuses or just doesn't respond, don't push it too far. Don't be too pushy or aggressive. Just respect that they decided not to communicate. Move on to the next artist and just be respectful. So let's say you go through that process. You've gone to social media. You found a gallery's social media platforms, and you can see, hey, this looks like a gallery that I would like to work with. And I've talked to one or two of the artists in that gallery, and it sounds like they're really good to work with. So now you're considering the application process. And so what you'll do is typically on any gallery's website, they will have an application process listed. If you can't find it on their gallery, I would then recommend making a very quick, brief phone call to the gallery during their hours and say, hey, I'm an artist looking for representation. I noticed that you don't have, or I wasn't able to find any criteria on how you accept applications. I would love to know what that process is and how you would prefer me to apply for representation. And that would be a really great way and a quick way to know, one, are they even looking for applications? Are they accepting artists? Two, that they might be surprised and grateful that they're like, oh, I didn't realize it was hard to find. This is where it's at. And they might send you a link and you're actually providing them a service. Call them if you can't find it on their website. But when you do get the information on how to apply, follow it as precisely as you can. If they say we want 8 to 10 images, don't give them 50. If they say, we want 12 or more images, don't give them 6. Follow their criteria and take it very seriously. Another aspect of, providing images or sending images, they're going to want, maybe they have limited server space where you have to upload images. And it's like, well, your images need to be a certain, pixel dimension. So just be very, very precise and thorough as you're looking over that application process, and try to just what you're going to do is, if you meet all that criteria, they're going to think this person is professional. They pay attention to detail, and they're going to be better to work with. They can follow instructions, right? So that's going to help you have a better chance of being looked at seriously. Having high quality images is going to be absolutely imperative. The higher the quality, the better. In my course, if you don't know how to take good quality images of your work, I have some great resources on photographing your work, and editing and cropping and things like that to get nice professional images. Highly recommend checking out my courses if that's something that you think would benefit you. Another thing is, once you have submitted a portfolio or your application, whatever they've required or asked of you, a lot of times it'll be like some kind of portfolio, or maybe it'll be a website or social media a handle. Anyway, a way that they can see your work. You want to give them easy access to look at your work and to see if it's consistent. Something to keep in mind as you are applying for a gallery is that rejection is kind of a big part of this scenario. Not every gallery you contact is likely to respond. And if they do, sometimes they do respond, and sometimes it's we're just not looking to add any artists right now, or we're not interested in your work. Handling rejection gracefully is one way of showing them that you're a professional. If you get all huffy or angry or upset, that's a really great way to burn bridges and ruining chances of working with the gallery in the future. So it's really important that you handle rejection gracefully. If they don't respond, you might consider a follow-up email, within like maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I think 2 weeks is probably the minimum time that you would want to wait. I would say 2 to 3 weeks is probably a good kind of buffer, where you could, wait. If you don't hear from them, send out just a follow-up email. Hey, I just want to make sure that you got my application. I would love to hear back from you with any feedback, something very brief, professional, that's going to be a really great way to be persistent, but not overbearing. So another thing that you might, if a gallery has the information handy, if they have any contracts, you might be looking at some of those things too. That's something that you can get potentially from artists that you interview to see if a gallery is a good fit for you. You can ask them, hey, if you don't mind telling me, what's their commission, rate? What's their contract like? What's their protocol for when they sell and paying you? Do they send a check in the mail? Do they prefer direct deposit? Those are just some of the things you need to look into and be aware of. Sorry, that's kind of going back to interviewing artists, but I think that's really important. Another aspect of things that you can consider and think about when you're vetting for a gallery. If a gallery responds to you through an application, and then you go like into the interviewing stage, like, hey, like, we like your work, we'd love to work with you. Or we'd love to, one of the galleries that I worked with, that I still work with, the way that they handled it was they kind of gave me a kind of a trial period where I was a guest artist. I wasn't officially represented, but it was basically a trial run for them to have my work, to show it and present it to their client base, and for 2 or 3 months, and to see how their clients responded. And so I thought that was a great way to do it, and that kind of took the pressure off of me and them, and it was kind of a trial run for both of us. So that's something that would be probably a good idea to consider, is just finding out how they want to handle representing your work. So the next step, I would say, moving on to the next phase. Let's say you've established a relationship representation. Here's just a few keys to maintaining a strong gallery relationship, where both of you are maintaining that benefit. We gotta always remember, a gallery representation relationship needs to be mutually beneficial. Otherwise, it won't work. If it's only beneficial for you and not for the gallery, they have no reason to work with you, and vice versa. And so I would say the first focus is communication. You need to make sure that you have those conversations where expectations are clear. You know exactly what your cut is or what their commission rate is, right? Whether it's 40 or 50%, or you understand that they are going to expect like every 6 months, we would love to have new work. Or maybe they want to maintain a certain number of pieces that are available in a gallery at all times. If you sell your own work, you go to shows, you work with other galleries, you need to make sure that they understand that, during this time of the year, you may not be able to provide more work. And so those are just some of those things that you just have to just say, hey, what do you expect of me? And these are some things that I would like to expect. Is that realistic? And so something that you can expect, and I think every artist should expect, is getting paid on time, in a very quick way. Let's say a gallery sells a painting this calendar month. I think within 2 weeks to a month, you should be paid. And so that's something that you could, set forth and say, hey, how do you handle this? This is what I would like to expect. Is that realistic? And those are things that you can work out and you can kind of negotiate. And that's, I think, one of the aspects of working with a gallery or a gallery owner or a gallery representative, like a manager, is just being very clear at the things that you expect and what they expect. A lot of times they're going to want you to meet deadlines and be very professional when, like, let's say they want to put on an exhibition or a show for you that represents you, or maybe a group of artists. And there's going to be specific deadlines that they're going to need you to meet, like getting images to them before the show, maybe a month or two in advance, so they can be promoting your work to their collector base. And so the more professional you are and the easier to work with you are, the more likely they are to want to work with you and to work for you. So if they're trying to communicate with you, you need to respond. If they send you an email, be quick to respond. Like, treat this like a relationship that you want to last. It just takes maintenance, and it takes a lot of effort. And so if you're not willing to respond to communication, whether they're trying to get a hold of you on the phone, text, email, that's a really great way to lose representation. If they want you to have a certain number of paintings in the gallery, but you don't have enough work to give to them, they're probably not going to want to work with you. So meeting their expectations is something that you need to make a priority. So those are the things that I think are the most important when it comes to finding and working with galleries. So just to kind of recap and go through all of that again. First, finding the right gallery. Find a gallery that sells work similar to yours. Okay, that's first and foremost. Second, research galleries effectively. So take the time, find their websites, their social media platforms, see if they feel like a right fit to you. If they do, reach out to some of the artists that are represented by them and see what their experience has been. The more information you can get before applying, the better. Then once you're ready to apply, be very, very precise and careful to follow the criteria that they have asked. And then once you are represented by a gallery, then the last thing is to maintain a strong relationship by really solid communication and working hard to meet their expectations and just being very, very professional. Sometimes that means that you're going to do things that you don't necessarily want to do, and you're going to need to open your schedule to accommodate them and their views and their vision. And so really, to me, working with a gallery, and what I personally look for is I want a gallery where we can have a similar vision. And ultimately, their goal is to sell art and to make money. They want to bring in income to support their business by helping their clients to find the work that they love. And so they're not just serving you, they are serving a client base who actually are the ones that spend the money. And so you have to always remember that these galleries have relationships that they have to maintain. And if you're not going to work with them to meet that goal, it's just not going to align. And so anyway, I hope that this has been helpful. Like I said, this has been kind of rough and raw. I would love to know your feedback in the comments below. Please, or send me a message. Please let me know if you feel like this has been valuable to you. And like I said, just kind of a little shout out. I have a lot of really great resources. I have a actual kind of like a roadmap and checklist that you can go through when you're looking at potentially finding a gallery, kind of all the steps to go through, like the vetting process, All of that, I've got it outlined really nicely in some of these documents in my courses. I have some other, like a list of pros and cons to galleries. I have also some really great templates on reaching out to other artists and ways, even like a kind of a copy paste email that you can just plug in a few of your own little prompts, like your name, things like that. But things that have worked for me that have been really effective on kind of going through that vetting process of figuring out whether or not a gallery is right for you. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful and beneficial. Give me your feedback. Let me know. I'd love to do more of these if you feel like this has been beneficial. Regardless, I hope you guys are finding a ton of value in the podcast. And more than anything, I just want to help you guys to find success. And so anyway, that's going to be it for today. And for this episode, happy painting, everybody, or sculpting, or whatever it is you're creating. Happy creating. Work hard, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Art podcast. If you're interested in resources and education to help you successfully create art and then sell it, please check out the Business of Art course in the link below. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.